log into the chat room. We're just coming up to the hour, and we're going to be talking through the latest trends in performance management. A topic I think is going to be of great interest. I'd like to run us through the agenda. I'm Jonathan Pearce. I'm editor of Call Center Helper, and I'll be taking us through the introductions today. And then we've got two newcomers to our webinar schedule in terms of speaking on them. I think Doug has attended a number. Doug is going to take us through a fascinating topic, performance management for humans. So Dougie, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you.
And you're with Adzess, which is what, a consulting company?
Yeah, it's a consulting company that I set up myself. So after Sky, I decided that I'd learned a lot and wanted to share it. So so taking all the benefits of our wisdom and packaging it up in one place.
Wonderful. So hopefully you'll be able to add a bit of zest to our webinar today, if you excuse the pun. And we're also joined by Tony Clark from Aspect. Welcome, Tony.
Hi, thanks.
Hi, and you're going to be taking us through latest trends in performance management. And as I understand it, Aspect have got a performance management software capability as part of your product suite.
Yes, aptly named Aspect Performance Management.
So hopefully it does what it says on the tin. So we're going to be doing your top tips and your questions as we go along. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We'd like everyone today to log into the chat room where you can download today's webinar slides. We're also, any tips and questions, if you log them into the chat room, we have a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolates for the best answer or best tip would be best. If you want to watch a replay of this, we've got a lot of material we're going to be going through. Dial in on the same link as you're in today. I know a lot of you do like to share these webinars with your team and with your management team as well. And Aspect have written a nice little white paper on performance management, which they will be sending out to you after the webinar. So chat room, callcenterhelper.com/chat. And then once you're logged into there, we've got quite a number of people logged in already, you'll be able to download the slides. There's a little link called Download Webinar Slides just underneath the top right-hand corner. Just click on there, you can download the slides. And if you want a transcript of the chat log, you can just do that from the download chat log button there, which would be great. So what I'd like you to do, if you're not logged in to the chat room, log in already. And I'd like to ask you the questions. In 1 or 2 words, how would you describe performance management in your contact center? Is it basic? Is it advanced? Is it optimal? Is it new? Just put in 1 or 2 words how you would describe performance management in your contact center. Just wait for you to type the results in. So we've got the first ones coming through. Matt says it's basic. Andrew says underutilized. Quite interesting. Danny, basic but moving forward. Paul, basic. Ian, improving. Juana, basic. Phil says inconsistently delivered. Rita's basic. Lucas says we'll see after the webinar. Robert says advanced. Catherine, non-existent. Marin says advanced, weekly, monthly, quarterly reviewed. Very good. Angelo, very subjective, so just calibration may be a challenge there. Advanced, says Dominica. Inconsistent, says Amanda. Chris says it's new. Abdul says it's basic. Liz says new and constantly improving. We've also got inconsistent, under review, non-existent, advanced, and inconsistent. So Dougie, looks like there's a sort of range there, not too many advanced, and a number of basics. And inconsistency seems to be one of the challenges there. Is that one of the areas you're going to be addressing, Dougie?
Absolutely. I think whether performance management or anything, I think consistency is the absolute key to a business being a success, and we will definitely cover that in my presentation.
Wonderful. Well, we'll wait for that in just a short while. We're going to pop up a poll as well, and the question is, how aligned is your contact center with your company's vision. There's a number of statements here, so select all that apply. It is fully aligned. It's aligned on a good day. It varies from team to team. I wish it was, or it's not aligned. So if you'd just like to have a vote on there. Tony, any thoughts what you think might come out as top mark on there?
I'm pretty sure that fully aligned will not be at the top one.
Okay. So what would you say, team to team?
I think possibly team to team, or it is on a good day. Perhaps that's the optimist in me.
Okay, well let's have a look at the results. So I'll just share those up on the screen. 22% is fully aligned, so certainly not the bottom one, but yes, it varies from team to team about 40%. 31% says it is on a good day. 7% says I wish it was, and 6% not aligned. So, Dougie, it looks like sort of broadly aligned-ish. Not too many have got it wasn't aligned. Does that fit in with what you would have expected?
Yes, completely. And I think the one that that I find quite interesting is the not on a good day one. If you think your vision is your vision, so it should be every day, day in, day out, every team. So I think it's I think it comes back to that consistency point from before, and just it's a golden thread that runs through everything.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I know you're going to be talking about vision as part of your presentation. So, Dougie Cameron, you're going to be talking through performance management for humans, which I think is quite a nice little title you've got there. Do you want to take us through, put your slides up and take us through your thoughts?
Yes, I would. Give me 2 seconds and I will get my slides up. And hopefully you can see my screen now.
We can indeed. Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, well thank you, Jonty. As Jonty says, I'm Dougie, and I'll give you a little bit of background before. What I'd really love to do this afternoon is to give you some food for thought, to remind you what we're trying to achieve when we run a customer-focused business, and most importantly, why we sometimes make it difficult for ourselves, even when we focus on what we think are the right things to do. So firstly, let me just kind of offer... Can you guys hear me?
We can indeed, yes.
Sorry, I was getting noise in my ears there. Firstly, let me just tell you a little bit about me and what I know about performance management and why I've ended up talking to you today. So firstly, and probably most relevantly, I'm a trained accountant and I was a finance director. And throughout my career, I've been responsible for performance management and all of the crazy things that go with it. So incentives, KPI reporting, and what's always my favourite personal thing in this area is the stretch target. And during that time, I was so much part of the system that I even believed some of the stuff that we used to say. So I'm pretty sure everyone will recognise the phrase "you can't manage what you can't measure." And I used to say stuff like that, and it was true. But I have paused for thought now on whether it's important or not. So my epiphany, I guess, came when I became an operations director in a big company, and unlike when I was in finance, I had to live with the consequences and the outcomes of performance, and I really had to learn what motivated people and engaged a great team. And kind of the final arrow in my bow is that I am a leadership coach, and I've got a strong interest in how the brain works, and particularly how individuals' brains work in companies. And how that all hangs together. And it basically means that I can draw my own conclusions from insight, science, knowledge, and many years of varied but relevant experience. So enough about that. Let's crack on. So first slide, which isn't changing, fortunately.
You just have to click in and click in again.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Can you see the new screen now, John? Yeah?
We can indeed, yes.
Excellent. Okay. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'd like to pause for a moment and reflect on what we're all trying to achieve in our customer-focused organizations. So as leaders, we want to lead well and make our business a success. We want our employees to be motivated and happy. We want them to be engaged. And we want those engaged employees to make our customers feel great about us, recommend us to their friends, and buy more stuff from us. Conceptually, that is really, really, really simple. But we conspire and collude on a daily basis to make it really difficult. So let's take a moment to consider this. I'm struggling to change the slide again. There we go. So in Europe, only 14% of employees class themselves as engaged, and 20% are considered actively disengaged. Now, what actively disengaged means is that they're not just a benign influence in the workplace, they're actually disruptive, so they're unproductive and disruptive. And what's important to remember is that they're not bad people, they're badly led people. Now, I'm not going to talk very much during this presentation about performance metrics. Of course, it would be derelict not to have them in your plan, and they're definitely part of how you plan and shape your business going forwards. But as a tool to mobilize your operation, to make your customers happy, to motivate your team, I'm going to argue that they're counterproductive. So stepping away from metrics in a performance management arena is a conceptually challenging concept. But I'd love if we could all pause for a second and open ourselves up to opportunity before we move on. I've got a 3-year-old and I have the joint pleasures of seeing a tiny wee blank canvas developing, uncluttered with preconceptions, and I also get to read Winnie the Pooh a lot. So I love Winnie the Pooh wisdom. I'd love to share this bit with you just before we move on. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping a moment and think of it. We're really comfortable with managing performance through numbers. We experience it every day, but I'd love if you could quieten the bumping in your head for the next 10 minutes while we go through and try some new concepts. So, the science of leadership, in my opinion, hopefully you guys will find it too, is fascinating. And in the last few years, it's advanced exponentially. There's now deep fMRI technology where we can scan the brain while people make decisions. So we know what's happening where and what triggers reactions. So management science is now more about neuroscience rather than anecdote. So firstly, let me talk about what we know, what is important about people at work. They need to feel that they're valued. They need to feel that their job is worthwhile. They need to feel that they're fulfilling a valuable role, and they need to feel that they're making a difference. What they don't respond to well is feeling like a piece of machinery, a dispensable cog in a wheel, or, and bless the people that come up with these terms, a human resource. This is particularly acute for Generation Y, so those guys that are born between 1978 and 1988. They don't react well to a command and control environment, and even more importantly, they don't believe in jobs for life or loyalty to an employer. Matt Lieberman, who's a neuroscientist at UCLA in the States, has proven that humans fundamentally need social connection. In fact, he argues, and it's been widely accepted, that the old favourite Maslow's hierarchy of needs is incorrect because the most fundamental human need is social connection. And the pain of not having social connection is as real as physical pain. So enjoying and feeling valued at work is really important to people. And there are very, very real and expensive consequences if people don't. Attrition, recruitment, the retraining because of that, inefficiency is a consequence of the churn, and customer dissatisfaction, then losing customers and having to acquire new customers. So if you get the very fundamental building blocks wrong of the social aspect of work, then people will shut down and there will be consequences. But this is when it gets really interesting. For years, companies have recruited leaders based on their analytical and critical thinking skills, and they've been much less concerned about social skills. But here's the rub. A leader with poorly developed people skills is unlikely to get buy-in to their vision, and therefore will be less likely to execute their plan, because fundamentally they can't lift and motivate the people that need to do the work. If you consider that only 30% of transformation products are considered successful, this is significant. So let's pause for a moment if you think that you are pretty effective at both analytics and people management, and just look at another number here. We all think we're pretty good at getting the balance right. And a recent study by David Rock, who's actually a management consultant, concluded that 0.77% of leaders, so that's less than 1% of leaders, could be considered top performers measured by their ability to focus both on goals and on the needs of people. Statistically, most of us are not going to be in that 1%. So that for me is a really fascinating number, that we are organisationally set up to be goal and metric based, but we need people to do all the work. And there's another bit of David Rock's work that's really interesting, because what he's found is that the portion of the brain that engages when people think about goals actually causes the part of the brain that focuses on people to switch off. So we don't multitask as people think, we actually flip between things. We're kind of pretty one-dimensional. And when the brain switches off, there are obviously consequences to that. And the typical performance management process, this comes back to the news article, actually puts our brain into a threat state. So we go back to our most primal reptilian responses, which are fight, flight, or freeze, instead of thinking about reward and future. So in any measure, that's not a good state for our people to be in as they face our customers, especially if the objective is customer loyalty or advocacy. So let's look now at how we can consider performance management through a different lens to allow organisations to excel. So the first thing that I've pulled out is, in my opinion, the most important one. Treat your people like you want your customer treated, and probably even better. So everyone says they have a customer vision, they want their customers to be happy and so on, but they neglect the people part of it. Most companies say all the right stuff. Some of them pay really well, they give great benefits, but the problem is they don't follow through with the behaviour consistently. Consistent word again. Imagine being told that your job is to satisfy the customer, yet your performance management conversations question your handling time, or your talk to logs ratio, or your sales per hour, or your schedule adherence, or whatever. These people thought they were employed in there to satisfy the customer. So we take a step back again. What people wanted to feel was that their job was worthwhile, that they're fulfilling a valuable role, and they can make a difference for every customer. It doesn't connect for them. Leaders so often look at performance management, and the quote I hear most often is, "It's simple. Why don't they just do what we want?" But at every single level, if performance in a company is failing, it's not about the employees. Most people don't set out to be bad. It's about the leaders that have just not got something right. And there's a wonderful quote by a guy called Ben Zander, who was the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, that I always come back to when talking about leading people, which is, "Who am I being that their eyes aren't shining?" And that just resonates for me, because if somebody's not performing at work, then it's about the leader, not about that person. So the second thing, and this kind of follows directly through, is have a clear vision. And it's kind of the questions that we asked before, and I think Jono and Amanda and Phil all talked about inconsistent, and living it consistently is the key thing for me. Setting a clear vision and living it consistently is the leader's principal responsibility. They can't be everywhere, so they need to set that absolute gold standard throughout the business. They need to set the vision. It's the story, it's the mantra that the company lives through, and all of our concepts of performance should drive towards it. It's fine, absolutely fine, to have a vision to be a cost leader, but in those circumstances, don't say that your customer experience is important. It's dishonest, and your people and your customers will disengage from you. But you'd better be damn sure. You'd better be damn sure that your cost advantage is sustainable, because you're not building loyalty. Who flies Ryanair by choice? No one. So often the vision is either dishonest or disingenuous, because it's not lived consistently. It's often fudged at the start by suits in a boardroom who want the benefits of the long-term strategy, but they really want the short-term cost goals.
I think there was a quite nice quote here from we had a while ago from Paul Cooper, who said that the problem is it's not that your staff don't listen to you, it is that they actually do listen to what you're saying and doing, but that doesn't necessarily match up with with the values you'd espoused, and staff are quite quickly see the difference between what you're saying and what you're actually doing.
Absolutely, Jonty, yeah. So the other thing about the vision for me is it's not just the, somebody used to describe to me the pizza plate next to the toilet door. It's not about what gets printed in the glossy brochure. The vision has to permeate the business, absolutely and totally, from recruitment decision to goal setting to performance conversations to reward. It's got to be consistently applied with a cult-like zeal, because if you don't care enough about it, then why should anyone else care? And what I'd like to do now is just have a look at a couple of companies that I think do customer very well. They're very few and far between, the ones that do it really well. But let's have a look at a couple that are great at both wowing their customers and making profits. So the first one, quite often used, Ritz Carlton, the fantastic and fantastically expensive hotel group. And they've got what they call their gold standards. And I love their first people line in it, which sets the tone for me, really, which says that they are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And this quote here on the screen is from pretty much the first line of the gold standards, which is the Ritz Carlton is a place where the genuine care and comfort of our guests is our highest mission. These guys are absolutely unequivocal in that vision. They don't cut costs around it. They don't mess around. That is their thing. To give you an example of how deeply they take this, I'll give you two examples. The first one is that when they refurb a hotel, you can imagine these are multi-million, £100 million hotel refurbishments. And they actually symbolically start with the employee entrance and the employee social areas, because they're saying that given that message, which is our guests are important, but the message starts here. And the other thing that I love, and it will scare the pants off any finance director, every single employee in the Ritz Carlton Hotel Group, so every single employee, chambermaids, anyone, is empowered to spend up to $2,000 per day per guest without reference to a supervisor. And that does not have to be in response to a complaint. That can be to make the experience even better. So the second company that I pulled out, you might not be as familiar with. So let me introduce you to Zappos, who I think are a fantastic inspiration in the world of customer experience, and I would recommend reading about them if you haven't heard about them. They're an online shoe retailer. They've not been around for that many years. They are mainly based in the US. I think they've been bought by Amazon now. Massively successful and genuinely quirky. And their vision, they've got 10 values they talk about, and I pulled a couple out there that I think are quite fun. But they do just the most bizarre things because they class themselves as quirky. And if you look at that number 3 there, create fun, have a little weirdness, is one of their actual values. But after careful recruitment, and they take a long time recruiting and inducting people, they actually offer every employee $2,000 to quit. And that's just to make sure that they've got people that want to work for them. They're wonderful fun, a wonderful case study, and they do genuinely live, operate, and recruit by these principles. In fact, I can't remember the exact number, but they have a legendary story of an average handling time, something like 11 or 12 hours when the lady didn't buy anything at the end of it, which I think is just fantastic for storytelling, but also a motivational story that you can do what's the right thing there. So Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, says quite simply, once you know your purpose, everything else follows. And I quite like that. So that's without, the assumption is there that you're consistent with it, but knowing your purpose, everything else follows. And you kind of got the stuff here that you would expect to deliver wow through service, but take a notice there just of number 8, which is do more with less. And the principle there is that if you get the vision and the recruitment right, then having a light metric environment isn't frivolous. The savings in customer and employee churn are going to make up much more than the micromanagement metrics that you would normally get. So that's Zappos. So last kind of big principle talking about is thinking outside in. So how many companies have a vision and talk about being customer focused, but then absolutely sink back into themselves and use project language and technical language and metrics that are not that important. I love this quote from Einstein that not everything that counts can be counted and not everything that can be counted counts. The customer industry is blessed and cursed by its ready access to data. I would guess everyone who called today has got a dashboard that's got handling time, log time, attrition, absence, adherence, wrap time, and so on. Data we can trust because we can touch it. We've then got first call resolution data that we probably trust a little bit less because there's a formula involved in it, and then there's CSAT that we probably think is some kind of witchcraft because it's volatile and it's from customers. But we need to start thinking like customers, and for me, if CSAT is volatile, it's saying that we're not delivering a consistent experience, consistent word again. So we need to start thinking like customers when we set up performance management. And frankly, our schedule adherence is none of their concern, and neither should it be. So just some closing thoughts. As humans or human resources, we do not like being performance managed. It's not motivational and it doesn't have the desired outcomes. We do, however, like being recruited into the right role, being given a clear purpose in what we're doing that we can live consistently. We've got a habit now of measuring things because we can, and of course that is useful. In all my previous roles, I need the numbers, but they're not part of the performance management conversation. They should be underpinning our planning process and be a barometer of general health, but they shouldn't be involved in conversations with the front line. And so I just want to leave you with these 3 points. Performance management is really only all about people talking to people, leaders talking to employees, talking to customers, and it's all about delivering a vision. Number 2, if you can't be consistent with your vision, why should anyone else care about it? And that really just sinks all the way through an organization. And finally, if you're measuring it, ask yourself whether the customer cares, and then ask yourself why you're measuring it again. No performance management model is ever going to be completely purist, but I hope that I've given you some food for thought before we start bumping down the stairs behind Christopher Robin again. So many thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for that, Dougie. I think there's some quite important lessons in there. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts, I think is quite interesting. And the key lesson I took from that, Dougie, is staff don't feel valuable just being a cog in the machine. The social connection is very
really important to them, yeah.
So thank you very much for that. We're going to jump to a poll now, and the poll we're going to ask is, do you link agent performance to pay? Just select any of these that apply. So do you have an individual quality bonus? Do you have a team-based quality bonus? Do you have sales-based bonus, or do you have no bonuses at all? Or if there's any other types of bonus systems, if you'd like to add those into the chat room. So let's have a look at just waiting for a couple of results to come back in here, and we'll just put the results up on the screen, and then we'll go on in a bit to have a look at your tips and questions. So here's the answers. 55% have an individual quality bonus, 17% a team quality bonus, 27% have a sales-based bonus, and 27% have no bonus at all. Dougie, how does that fit in with your expectations?
I think that's pretty much what I would expect. I always wonder about bonus. It kind of goes back to, you've probably recruited the wrong people for the role and you're bribing them to do it. So I'm more of a purist, which is get the vision right, get the basics right, pay people a decent salary, and you'll get the quality will come without the bribery. Yeah.
And do you think team or individual? Presumably you're more in favour of team, or is it no bonus at all?
I would be much more in favour of team and probably even organisation.
Yeah, so, interesting.
Yeah, corporate organisation. Yeah.
Okay, well we're going to just switch now across to just hide that there, and we're just going to switch across to your hints and tips from the audience. Just a reminder, if you want to put in hashtag question for a question, hashtag tip for a tip, and if you're not logged in already, the address is callcenterhelper.com/tip. chat. A lot of discussion coming through. The first question we're going to go on is one from Marin, who says 0.77% considered to be in the top third. Where does this quote come from, and what study is that? I don't know if you have details there, Dougie, or do we need to add that to the website?
Yeah, I don't have it to hand. I tell you what I'll do. There's an excellent article on it in the I think it's Wall Street Journal. So I'll get you the link for that, and you can read it in depth there.
Okay, great. We'll add that onto the webinar page as we go through. So Reno said we have a bonus scheme based on 3 aspects of work: productivity, quality, and attendance. Attendance. That's an interesting one there, because I suppose if you've got people motivated, then attendance shouldn't be too much of an issue. So let's have a look. Tips. Talk to your people. Being upfront with disengaged agents allows them to air the real reason for their discontent. Dougie, any thought on that?
Yeah, I think your communication should be open in 2 ways all the time, so I think that's an excellent point.
Okay, great. Let's have a look at his audience opinion. Chris said, I have several agents that are here for a paycheck and do not engage past the minimum requirement. I also have several that are actively disruptive. I think a number of people have put some points on that in the chat room. Nair said, care. If you have a contact center manager who genuinely cares about people, then in my experience, they get the best out of their team, whatever performance management infrastructure sits around them. Tony, do you think there's it's mainly a management issue? Do you think there's a technology angle there too?
There's certainly the use of technology can help, but yeah, I think the key is, I think as Dougie's been mentioning, is the communication, and the managers, they need to have open communication with their agents. We can use technology to aid that, but it is that ability to be able to talk with the agent, and the agent to talk with the manager as and when they feel it necessary.
Okay, indeed. Well, let's have a look at some other opinions. Dominica said the key to understand exact reasons why people are disengaged is never to assume you know the answers. And I think on a similar thing, Chris has come back and said, I have multiple meetings with disengaged agents to try and get to the root cause. I have found that the first few things they say are not normally the root cause. So I guess it's a bit as Shrek say, a bit like an onion. You've got to peel back the levels. Doug, have you got any advice on how to deal with disengaged staff?
It's a tricky one, because it's the failure has already happened, because you've probably recruited someone wrong, or you've missold the role to them, or you're mismanaging them. So it's actually really difficult to turn around someone that's actively disengaged, because there's something pretty fundamental that's caused them to get disengaged. So it's kind of a senior leadership thing that I would guess that anyone that analysed it would find clusters of disengaged agents around certain leaders, and I would argue that maybe the leaders need to be the solution.
Indeed.
Or management of the leaders. So it's like I said at the start. It's people don't set out to be bad. They kind of get forced into being bad. Yeah, I think it's pretty difficult once somebody gets disengaged.
Yeah, I always used to find that disengaged, it was you'd spend a lot of time trying to work out what the root factors are, but and that often did lead to an improvement in performance, and sometimes you could turn people around. But ultimately, with a number, it was really a question of managing them. They weren't happy. Managing them into a different career in a different company, hopefully where they would be happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's just take one more tip, and then we'll have a look at some of the technology. Rebecca said the customer will not care if someone is late every day, but surely this should be performance managed. Otherwise, employee will think it's okay. I think there is a danger that if you don't get in early on some problems, then they can certainly fester and start to infect other people. Danny says regular customer forums on our performance really helps not only steer our business goal, but drives our people performance to achieve the customer goals. I think, Dougie, there's a lovely bit of alignment here against what customers want.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's go off now. We're going to have a look at some of the impacts that technology can have on the whole performance management area. So Tony Clark from Aspect is now going to take us through a presentation on the latest trends in performance management. So Tony, if you'd like to pop the slides up on your screen and just like to introduce yourself and take us through your thoughts on the latest trends in performance management.
Yes, cheers. Thanks, John T. So I am, as we already said, Tony Clark from Aspect. So I'm the product manager for our performance management solution, and I've worked on this product and in the performance management area for the last 10 or so years, mainly from an engineering perspective. So certainly from the technology aspects. And what I wanted to discuss today were sort of three new technologies that can be used within the contact center and specifically the performance management area of software to help its adoption, help employee engagement. Certainly helps talk to some of the things that, or can be used to help talk to some of the things that Dougie's been referring to. Yes, so let's move on. If I can navigate through. There we go. It's slightly more seamless. Okay, so the three areas that I wanted to touch on today are the tool set that we use for performance management and how this can help not only the adoption and the use of the tool, but actually help increase the productivity of all its users. Secondly, the reporting frequency, not necessarily how often your performance reports and your contact center reports are sent out. I'm hoping that the majority of the people here have self-service reports to get the metrics they need, but more along the lines of how frequently the data in those reports is fed in and how up to date it is. And then the last of the three is speech and text analytics. It's a very exciting area of technology and very useful in content sectors now. And it's the active reviewing calls and contacts made by agents, sort of to ensure the quality, making sure all the legal requirements and such are being met. Okay, so moving on, the tool set. I would hope the majority of those here today have a dedicated performance management system, and from the polls it seems that we have, and hopefully pulling in data from various and numerous data sources, your workforce systems, your quality systems, and such. And this obviously allows you to present a holistic view of an agent's performance, and as been mentioned earlier, some of those are more relevant than others, or some of those metrics and KPIs. But that can also be aggregated up to show the performance of the contact center as a whole, not just down at the agent level, so you can see how the contact center is performing. Fortunately, time has moved on from the days of using thick client applications that you need to then install on all of the agents' desktops and that kind of thing, and just a small failure in rolling that out can cause a lot of pain. Hopefully people are using thin client software and web browsers, but perhaps it needs a plug-in, sort of a small download, or is limited to a single type of browser, sort of Internet Explorer or something like that. Okay, well, This is where HTML5 and its associated technologies can help us, because we can now move to a more responsive UI, a sort of approach to the tool set itself. So we can build an application using HTML5, CSS3 and such to deliver a system that you can use in any modern browser, so it can across all the major browsers, but it also means that you're not restricted to specific client operating systems or a family such as Windows. You can move on to Mac OS and such, and you can even use tablets, smartphones and iPads and such, all through a single application. So, as I say, the benefits to the actual user, they can get a consistent experience across all the device types that they use the application. So there's no special sort of limited app on your iPhone, but then everything fully featured on your laptop or your Office PC. Also, there's reduced training and learning time because of the consistent UX, and hopefully, albeit quite small, but a feeling of empowerment, because the user has more freedom to choose the device and the platform that they use to see this information. Unfortunately, that's going to be constrained by the company IT policies. Now, the benefits to the company are that obviously maintenance costs are reduced because there's only a single application to maintain, and reduced training costs. They can roll it out. They don't have to train up individual users, supervisors, agents on both the tablet version and the desktop version. So I hope you can see that's certainly a good thing that's coming, and should help both the users and the customers themselves. So the second I was going to talk to was about the immediacy of data. Now, hopefully everyone has a system that will provide at least daily reporting, in that when you come in the morning, you can go to your reports and you've at least got yesterday's data plus data from previous periods. You shouldn't have to wait a longer period of time for the data to be collected and approved and then possibly sent out in a large unwieldy spreadsheet where you're only really interested in one or two numbers there. Okay, previous to that, as I say, it did take quite a while to deliver the data. So now many of the contact centers that I speak to are moving to already in fact using intraday feeds. So it's not the real-time call stats that you see on the big boards, but during the day feeds of the same historical data that you're using in your performance management system. And they generally pull it at hourly, half-hourly, or even 15-minute intervals, which then makes it much easier to address performance issues as they occur during the day. So now you don't have to wait until tomorrow to see you've had a bad day. You can see that the day is not going as well as it should, and within the time frame of that day you're able to address it. But the other thing is, Intraday doesn't just allow you to address issues more quickly and have something to do to look at the reports during the day. You can add in simple gamification. I've seen a couple of contact centers where they run hourly competitions based on the number of sales or sales revenue, and then the winner within a group receives cinema tickets or such items like that. Just a simple thing such as pulling your data in Intraday can provide a lot more incentive for people, and also help smooth out your any performance issues. Okay, so before moving on to the last of the three technologies, just wanted to run a quick poll about how how many calls do you monitor within your organization for each agent for each month?
Okay, so the poll is how many calls do you monitor per agent per month? If you'd just like to vote on that, the answers are 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, or more than 10. Tony, do you think you're expecting many that come up more than 10?
I'd like to think so, but we'll see. Probably not, but it would be nice.
Okay, well, let's share the results up on the screen here. The most largest is 4 to 6. Encouragingly, 22% now are doing more than 10. Quite often follow this up by when I've done this before, with a question saying, now what do you really do on a busy day? Because that's often you see quite a big difference there. So that's the big one there is 4 to 6. 41% of the audience fit into that level overall. So Tony, I think you've got some thoughts on the number you can manage.
Yes, yeah. So we can certainly speak to that a bit more now. So none of those are well. There was the more than 10, which is a good percentage. But if we speak to that somewhat in that, if I hide that. So seems like everyone does review the calls, hopefully for quality purposes, and I'm hoping that it's either a specific team assigned to the quality or perhaps supervisors, and yeah, you can then listen to the calls and make sure everything's fine and make sure the customer is being treated appropriately and the agent is saying everything they should from legal perspective. As we can see there, the problem with manually listening to the calls is that there's obviously not enough time or resource to listen to a large number, certainly not all of the calls that are coming in, and that has the side effect of, well, you either have to cherry pick the calls, you have some method for choosing which calls to listen to, or you just take a random selection. Both approaches are going to be prone to missing out on both certainly unfortunate behavior, maybe missing out on those legal requirements I've spoken to, but also missing out on really good calls where the agent has done really well, and that's the kind of thing you do want to call out within your contact center. So with the advances in speech and text analytics, if I click the button twice, we can automatically analyze potentially all of the calls if we had sufficient hardware, but you can certainly analyze a much larger portion of calls for either specific words or phrases, and not just whether the words were said, like cancel or that kind of thing, but who said them, and also the sentiment used when they're being mentioned. And there's a couple of different approaches to how you do the speech-to-text process, which can pick up on those various different aspects. The analytics can also be configured to review, as I say, all calls, or it can use the rules, potentially the same rules that you would currently use to choose your calls, maybe a subset of the call length, so you may choose for each agent a longer call, a shorter call, and an average, or maybe depending on the time of day of the week, that kind of thing, or maybe even the queue that they've come in on. So it should be pretty clear why and how speech and certainly the speech analytics is going to help your company ensure a more consistent level of quality. Is the consistent word coming up again. And it then also leaves your traditional call reviewers able to concentrate on specific calls, maybe even providing some coaching if that's what they do as well. And then the analytics can be left to do the vast number of calls. It does need a bit of calibration, but That's getting easier and easier with the newer technologies. Now, if you were to tie this in with the intraday feed that I was mentioning earlier, then your users of your performance management system can potentially get feedback on calls. So the agent that had a really good call, they spent a long time on the call, but they managed to really provide some good customer satisfaction to the person on the call. They could see that. That could be reflected in their performance tool within the day, perhaps even just 1 or 2 hours after that call has been made. The system could automatically review the call, and then you could then pull that data straight into your performance management, maybe half an hour after it's happened, and then the agent and the supervisor could see that, and then it could be called out to the rest of the team as a good example of call quality. Okay, so just to summarize the items that I've spoken to today, the key technology for the tool itself is the advent of HTML5 and the responsive UI design, as that will give you the consistent user interface to use across all the different tablets and PCs and mobile phones. Because of that consistent UX, reduced training time and costs, and should be easier to learn as well. And the sense of empowerment. The intraday feeds means that you can see performance issues and the performance benefits and good quality by agents as such during the same day. You don't have an up and down of quality over time. You can smooth it out, and simple gamification. It's quite very simple gamification, but it's still possible. And then speech and text analytics. You can increase the number of calls and contacts that are reviewed, which is good in itself, but because it's done automatically, it provides that consistency again. You know that any scores will be consistent compared to each other. Okay, and I think that's everything. I'd like to thank everyone for listening.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Tony. We've got quite a number of tips and questions coming from the audience, so we'll take a number of those now. Just a reminder: use hashtag question for question, hashtag tip for tip. Quite a bit of feedback on the discussion on disengaged agents in the chat room, which you don't have to let go of a disengaged agent. Coaching can help a lot. Also, giving ownership of some projects can help to bring someone back and on the right track. Often they feel they can do much more than they're asked to, which I think is certainly a very valid point. Dougie, I think this one fits very nicely in some of the messages that you have been giving out. Managers need to focus on people and not so much on service level, SLAs. SLAs happen when staff are happy. I think that's more in line with what you've been promoting there, Dougie.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, so as I said earlier, I think metrics are very important to every business. You know, I would be absolutely derelict to not say that. But what I think is the most important thing is that managing people by metrics is exceptionally lazy leadership. Because it's it comes back to that point before about disengaged employees. It's not understanding the employee. It's not accessing their social desires of what they want to get out of work. It's it's just lazy leadership. It's kind of pointing and grunting and saying, why isn't that better? And people don't know the answer to that because they need help. So yeah, if people are happy, the SLAs will definitely come through.
Wonderful. And we've had a tip from Amy I thought was quite nice on the number of calls that are monitored. Amy says, we monitor one call if the agent scored very well the previous month. If they fall into the amber category, they'll have 2 calls evaluated, and anyone scoring red will have 3 evaluations, and if they remain remain in the red category for a rolling 3-month period, we instigate PIP, which I think is Performance Improvement Plan, if I'm not mistaken. So Tony, that's quite a nice way of sort of flexing the number of calls you listen to.
Yeah, yes, I mean, certainly that's helps probably an overstretched group of people reviewing calls, so that you're more likely to address those that need coaching and help with how they make calls.
And we certainly wrote up on a visit we recently did to All Clear Insurance about a sort of bronze, amber, gold category in that thing. So we'll add that link onto the website as well if anyone wants to read more. Question from Darren. What is your experience of competency-based frameworks and salaries? I think this might be a question that other people in the audience may be able to handle. Dougie, any experience of competency-based frameworks and salaries?
Yes, I have seen it before. So there's kind of the Scout badge kind of thing, where you know, as you acquire different skills and competencies, then you move up the salary bandings. I guess what I like is that there's actually just a good competitive salary to recruit the right person for the right role, and they kind of know what to do in that job. So that for me is almost kind of the 101 of how you salary and reward. But yeah, I've seen it done differently in loads of different places, but they're all kind of a slight flavour of the same thing. The more competent you are, or the higher performance scale you are, you get paid a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's not just necessarily pay. I guess that ties in with the social connection as well. That, you know, if you get kind of more badges, and often these sort of expert thing gets stuck on people's workstations, just a way of recognising people without necessarily having to have the financial element that does often help. Judy says we live listen to calls alongside the advisor. Not does only this monitor agent performance, it also shows the challenges and blockages that advisors have in their role. This helps us improve systems and processes, not just manage an agent to do better with a weak process. I think that's quite a nice technique there. Chris said we have the supervisor and agent listen to a call while filling out the same form separately. They then get together and compare their perception of the call. This helps to manage the agent's perception of what is expected. I guess, Tony, there's an element here of agents listen and score their own calls, and then just I think that it's often said that you're your own worst judge, worst critic. So I think that could be quite effective.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see how different the perception is. I mean, a lot of the time, well, this would allow the agent to provide some feedback on their thinking during the call as well, as to what they were thinking at particular times.
Okay, we'll go through a rapid number of ones in succession now. Paul says, find a reason to give praise often. I certainly like that. Chris says, we have the pin board in the middle of the centre where we place Bravo card. I don't know if Bravo is an acronym. When we catch agents doing something outstanding. At the end of the month, we place them in a bowl and draw a card for a gift award. This has created a great atmosphere. I guess that ties very nicely into Dougie's personal social collection you get. Jodie says we've worked hard on designing our measures on our customer purpose and regularly check back with customers that our measures met their desires by listening into customer demand. Dominica says when it comes to successful techniques, I think allowing staff to participate in the process of strategy creation, process improvements, KPI selection, makes them feel important, hence improve agent engagement. Agents must know they play an important role in the plan delivery. Let them speak, listen to their feedback, and implement their ideas. I think that aligns very nicely, Dougie, with your aligning the vision with the practicality.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I tend to call it co-creation, but you know, the worst people to actually come up with a strategy strategy are the suits in the boardroom, because they generally don't really know what the customer experience is, and they're really far removed from it, and they want what they wish they could get. So I think that's an excellent point. And there was something else I just wanted to, or two other things that I wanted to pick up just from what other people said. The one about listening side by side I think is really good, but I think what's even more important is be a customer. And whether it's retail or call centre or whatever it is, just walk the walk that a customer has to do. Find the telephone number, dial up, go through the IVR. That opens your eyes more than anything at all. And the thing about catching people doing the right thing, that's actually an expression that I used for a long time, was let's catch someone doing something great today, instead of trying to catch people doing something wrong.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're more or less out of time now. If you could write into the chat box in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best, or what did you learn most about today's webinar? If you could do that, that would be great. Slides are available on Call Center Helper, and a white paper will be sent out to you. If you'd like to watch the replay, that's on the same link as we've gone through today, and you can also get that through callcenterhelp.com/webinars. We've got a number of webinars in the series, but just remains for me to say thank you to our 2 panelists. Thank you to Dougie Cameron from AdZest Consulting. Thank you, Dougie.
Thanks, John T.
And thanks to Tony Clark from Aspect for joining us. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, John T.
And thank you for everyone for joining us. And just a reminder, we're going to be looking next week at the best metrics for your contact center. Thank you very much indeed, and look forward to joining you next week. Bye-bye.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.